After Resident Evil 4 Remake's launch, I started seeing a lot of buzz towards the DLC for this game. The original Resident Evil 4 had the Separate Ways DLC that allowed players to play Ada Wong's side of the story. Now, a few months after Resident Evil 4 Remake's launch, we have received the Separate Ways DLC. So I didn't play the original. Is it any good? Let's find out. Hi everyone, my name is Jeremy, and this is my non-spoiler review for Resident Evil 4 Remake's DLC called Separate Ways. I think before we start off this review, the first thing that we need to mention is what does this DLC add? This DLC adds Ada Wong's story and additional unlockables for the game, and the DLC is accessed as a separate game mode in the main menu. So what's the story of Separate Ways? The DLC follows the story of Ada Wong during the events of Resident Evil 4 Remake. Ada is sent on a secret mission by Albert Wesker to retrieve the Amber from Luis, with whom she made an agreement. The agreement is simple. Luis will give her the Amber in exchange for getting him out of the village. Unsurprisingly, things become very complicated and Ada will have to face the monstrosities of Los Iluminados cult in order to complete her mission. Just as the base game, the Separate Ways DLC tells its story through voice-acted cutscenes and documents that you find throughout the game. In terms of the visuals, the DLC continues with the same hyper-realistic visuals of the base game that showcases the high visual fidelity of the RE engine. The settings that you explore are mostly the same as the base game with some exceptions. Despite this, you get to see the same areas in another moment in the story, or other sides of the village that you don't see with Leon. Enemies are the same as in the base game with the exception of some of the bosses which are unique to the DLC. In terms of performance, just as many other PS5 games, the game has multiple options to run the game. Among them is the performance mode, which is the mode in which I played the DLC, and it ran at a consistent 60 FPS with no frame rate drops whatsoever. So let's talk about the music. The music in the DLC is different from the base game, even though it continues the same style of incredible action, thriller, intense music. Some of the tracks even have secret agent vibes that sound really good, and they manage to give a very particular atmosphere to the Separate Ways DLC that differentiates it from the base game.
That looks dangerous. Better tread carefully. I wonder what that is.
Don't forget your mission. The Amber. Nothing else matters. Wrap this little tour up and bring it to me.
Understood. But maybe a little sightseeing first.
So let's talk about the gameplay. The Separate Ways DLC continues with the same gameplay as the base game. The gameplay is focused on fighting, exploration, story, and some light puzzle solving. The DLC is divided into 7 chapters. In each chapter, you will have to work your way towards the corresponding objective. Along the way, you will face hordes of enemies which you will have to take down with your arsenal of weapons. You start off with a handgun, the TMP, and the knife. Just as in the base game, you will acquire additional weapons. Ada only gets some of the weapons that Leon has in the base game, and additional to that, she does have some exclusive weapons. I think gameplay wise, the distinguishing element in the DLC is the grapple gun. The grapple gun allows Ada to grapple to certain predetermined areas to traverse the map. Additionally, it allows Ada to melee enemies even if she is not close. The grapple gun also has an upgrade through a charm. In the DLC, you also have access to the merchant and the upgrading system of the weapons. There are also merchant requests that you can complete to get additional spinels. You can find treasures as you explore to sell for pesetas and raise your fund to invest in the merchant. So let's talk about the pros and the cons of this game. I think I'm gonna start off with the cons in this case, and I only have one complaint, and it's that the grapple gun I feel has a lot of potential, but its uses are limited gameplay wise. I found the grapple gun to be the main distinguishing gameplay mechanic in comparison to Leon in the base game. As I mentioned before, it can be used to melee stun enemies even if you are not close to them. I guess my complaint is that I wish the grapple gun was treated differently and that there was an actual way to upgrade it through the merchant and to add like special abilities to it. Because I feel like there was something there that they could have done to expand the gameplay with Ada that was not explored. So let's talk about the pros of this game. First of all, the gameplay. Just as in the base game, it's still fun, challenging, and tense, and you're gonna have a blast throughout the entire DLC. Secondly, the atmosphere. The DLC carries over the horror thriller action vibes of the base game and is super good. And last but not least, the story. And this is to me the most important strength of this DLC. Ada's story completes the story of the base game because it allows the player to see many of the events unfolding behind the scenes. Ada's story is interesting and opens the doors of speculation as to what will be the next Resident Evil game that Capcom chooses to remake. Plus, there's a lot of content here. The DLC is around 4 to 5 hours long. There are multiple difficulties just as in the base game, and a lot of unlockables, so you will have a lot of incentive to play through it multiple times. So in conclusion, Separate Ways is an excellent addition to Resident Evil 4 Remake that makes an already outstanding game even better. The DLC completes the offerings in the base game by giving players story elements that were not visible during Leon's campaign. This comes with a $10 US price tag that adds around 4 to 5 hours of fun, action-packed gameplay deep in this game's incredible atmosphere. This is a DLC worth picking up and that you won't want to miss. For this reason, I highly recommend Resident Evil 4 Remake's DLC called Separate Ways for the PS5. I hope you guys enjoyed my non-spoiler review for Separate Ways. The link to the PS Store page for the DLC will be in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you guys next time. Bye! Hi everyone, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our content.